Sai is a lonely, useless orphan who is bullied by everyone for being ugly. However, his life changed when he was destined to become the Demon King that would destroy the whole world, making all the demon-liking baddies desperate to taste his demonic sausage. It all starts on a certain rainy night, when his mother drops him off as a baby in the front of a church and prays for his survival. Several years later, Sai is at a train station on his way to school, when a girl suddenly runs past him while walking up the stairs. He catches a glimpse of her plot, which immediately fries his brain because he has never seen such in his lonely life. Just then, he suddenly sees a grandma who had spilled her luggage, so he heads over to meet her. But while at it, the old hag starts getting rizzed up by a cute little boy, making her consider being a cougar for a moment. Sai offers to help her with her luggage, but she doesn't want to bother a hot boy like him. However, he insists and starts to drag the luggage with her, which attracts the attention of the girl earlier. She immediately comes at him with a befitting kick to his face, thinking he is a thief trying to rob her grandma. This embarrasses the old hag, and the girl immediately apologizes upon realizing that he was only helping her and not stealing from her. She then gets friendly and introduces herself as Hattori, a freshman at the Magic Academy. Sai introduces himself too and says he is a newly transferred student. They board the train shortly after, and both get talking about their goals. Sai reveals that he wants to become a high priest so he can live a pure life, surprising Hattori, who tells him that this means he will never be a man of culture. Seeing his resolve, she tells him she will support him, being from a family who are responsible for protecting the empire from demons. Realizing that they have some sort of chemistry, Sai decides to shake her as a friend, but Hattori brings out her sword, and she makes them swear an oath to be good friends, adding that they would unalive each other if they failed to fulfill their goals. A few hours later, they arrive at the school, and Hattori heads to class while Sai goes to the infirmary for some registration. The school's physician, Tori, welcomes him and shows him the line so they can all be checked by a starved duck, which looks like it sniffs sheep crack for a living. The duck starts to check their physical condition and predict their future occupation. Upon reaching Sai's turn with the dude expecting to get a high priest prediction, the duck suddenly states that he will become the Demon King, shocking him. He wonders if it's currently high on crack or something, but the duck states the same thing repeatedly, scaring everyone in the class. Based on the previous history of a terrible Demon King that once lived, Sai feels like all his ambitions are now dashed, but Tori tells him not to worry too much about it. However, she informs him that he will become the target of some religious bigots in the school who might plan to unalive him or set dangerous traps for him. She takes him to his class, being the homeroom teacher, and introduces him before the class, which happens to be the same class with Hattori. Seeing him, the class becomes chaotic, as they are all scared to have humanity's doom in their class. Some even rumors that he can impregnate a girl just by touching her. And seeing all of this, he decides to speak up for himself. He delivers a short, powerful speech like Theodore Roosevelt, but it coincidentally references the same speech the previous Demon King who conquered the world made 100 years ago, scaring his classmates even more. Tori tells him to keep quiet and go to his seat behind the class. Later during the class, he reasons that he has to convince Hattori, at least because she has been snubbing him since he entered the class. The homeroom teacher asked who would be the class representative since it was a new semester. She asked Hattori if she would do it again. But before she can stand up, an idiot looking like he was just weaned last week suddenly nominates Sai. He adds that Sai becoming the class rep and performing good deeds for the school is the best way to prove he is not the Demon King. Hattori is almost hitting 100 degrees Celsius with her anger at this point, and seeing this, Sai quickly gets to his feet to decline, offering to be part of the cleaning committee instead. While he thinks the cleaning committee involves sweeping the floor and doing dishes, the teacher drops his jaw by saying the committee are hitmen responsible for protecting the school's secrets. The classroom gets even more horrified, and while Sai tries to find out how to escape the mess he just got himself into, Hattori grabs her sword stick. She approaches immediately, fuming like she is about to implode. She reminds him about their oath, shocking him because bro didn't take that thing too seriously earlier. She summons another sword stick, gives it to him, and challenges him to a duel. Whoever wins becomes the class rep, shocking him. The little boy steps out to show his support for Sai, claiming that he has fallen for him already, and asks if he can call him daddy because he would like him to diddy his backside. Hattori gets even angrier and launches an attack immediately, but Sai manages to dodge it. After a few strikes and misses, Sai humps her from the back. He tells her he won't disconnect his device until the matter is resolved, immediately causing her to blush as she feels his weapon touching her bunda. He tries to riz her with some cheesy Reddit pickup lines, but she becomes embarrassed when the other students yell that this is typical of a Demon King. She pushes him off and charges at him again, but Sai instantly grabs the sword. which immediately leads to an outburst of energy, causing an explosion. The whole class is left in a sorry state while Sai wonders what just happened. Meanwhile, some students report the situation to the student council president, and she becomes amused, hoping to see what he is made of. After this, Miwa continues glazing Sai and wants to ride his meat, but Sai tells him to stop.
We don't do that here.
Because his meat is for hoes, not bros. He then tells Miwa to take him to the female's dorm because he wants to see Hattori, and on getting there, he has to sneak up her window. Meanwhile, in her room, Hattori wonders how he almost got her with those lines earlier, and suddenly, she receives a knock on her window. She gets angry again upon seeing him and chases him off to the forest. Sai meets an ugly red-haired buffoon, who immediately tries to protect him as Hattori charges at him, but he accidentally unleashes a powerful attack while trying to defend himself, causing a huge explosion. This leaves Hattori lying unconscious with her melons exposed, and at that moment, a girl named Coronet appears through a portal. She calls herself an observer, leaving Sai to wonder who the heck this is again. Coronet brings out a special gun and heals Hattori with it. Hattori regains consciousness and runs off in embarrassment, realizing she is as bare as you are right now. Sai tries to follow her, but Coronet blocks him, saying she has some questions for him. She tells him that God Matched had ordered her to observe due to the incident that just happened. She further says before she can ask the questions, the headmaster needs to be present, and hearing this, the red-haired monkey becomes shocked. She immediately goes invisible and escapes, leaving her plot armor and panties as souvenirs. Corbin identifies her as Kina, one of his classmates, surprising Sai, but he wonders why she left in her birthday suit. At the headmaster's office, Coronet reports that after observing Sai, she discovered he never had any ill intention toward Hattori, surprising Sai and making him wonder if she can read minds. However, she replies that she can analyze emotions, and the headmaster suddenly declares that he might really be the Demon King in the future, but Sai is done with hearing all those crap. The headmaster further tells him that to avoid needless trouble, he had to ask the government to send an observer to watch and protect him, shocking Sai, who realizes that his life at school is about to get even more miserable. Getting out, Tori tells him to see this in a good light, and he replies that the only thing he can see right now is her goodies. She then asks him to come to narrate all that happened earlier to her privately in her office. He begins to explain, saying he had put all his strength into the long wooden sword, which caused a large mass of power to well up, resulting in an uncontrollable release all over the place. Sai then says he only wanted to use a little magic to defend him, but it got out of hand. Hearing this, Tori explains that his ability to manipulate mana is more powerful than he can control. She mentions that there is not much they can do since he is the Demon King after all, but Bro doesn't want to hear that trash again. Tori gives him a passport, or what the heck that is, which allows him to make telepathy calls with anyone of his choice. He returns to his room that night, and Coronet stands there with him, asking him to order her. He tells her not to worry, asking her to go and sleep too, but just as he lies to sleep, he suddenly finds Coronet beside him with her sus nightie, which immediately makes him uncomfortable. He tells her to get up before his magnum takes hold of him.
Come on, man.
So she leaves the bed, saying she will sleep in the wardrobe instead. However, Sai notices her watching him, and he asks what the heck. She closes herself in, but before he knows it, she goes back to monitoring him again. The next day, on his way to class with Miwa and Coronet following him, he suddenly meets Ato, the head of the girls' dorm. She tells him that Coronet told him about all that happened the night before and grabs his hand, saying she is so relieved to see him in person. She then tells him that since she is the head, she also knows how to give it very well, and he can come whenever he wants.
What do you mean by that?
She leaves and Sai feels good that there is someone who finally understands his struggles. A couple of hours later, Sai goes to the toilet, and Coronet follows him, leaving the other guys insecure about their tool size. Meanwhile in the toilet, Sai brings out the telepathy device Tori gave him and calls Ato to tell her he wants to make up with Hattori, but he doesn't want to cause more trouble by going to meet her. Ato immediately offers to help and tells him to come to the back mountain alone at lunch, but she says Coronet wouldn't allow it. Sai asks what he can do about that stalker, and Ato tells him she can deactivate her by pulling on her tail. So after lunch, all way leads to the back mountain, but Coronet follows him anyway, even though he had said he wanted to be alone. On their way, Bro secretly looks at her badonkadonks, wondering where her tail is. However, she catches him and calls him a thirsty loser for looking at her panties. However, as she tries to turn away from him, her skirt blows up, revealing the little tail he has been looking for. Then suddenly Coronet senses a strange, powerful mana coming from within the forest, and as they prepare to either fight or flee, a demon dog appears. It immediately charges toward them, and Korone quickly grabs her gun to shoot at it, but the bullet crushes at its teeth of steel. The demon dog continues aiming for Korone, but Sai quickly saves her before she is migrated to heaven. Then he grabs the monster and holds it tightly. He eventually unleashes a spell and slams it on the monster, turning it into a puppy. Korone wonders how he did that, and he explains that he is the goat. Hearing this, Korone tells him that no mage has done that before and says she will record this and report it. Just then, they hear a rumble in the forest, and it appears to be Kina. Sai tries to talk to her, but she disappears again with her invisibility skill. Korone, not being able to trace her, goes to pick up her bag, but this only exposes her tail, which Sai quickly pulls, deactivating her. Eto shows up immediately and tells him Korone won't remember anything happened when she comes on again. She then tells him she will help him talk to Hattori so she can give him an audience, which makes Sai glad. Before she leaves, she suggests that he join the disciplinary committee, and he gladly agrees because it is not like the trash he thought the cleaning committee was about earlier. At that moment, she gives him some magical medicine, which she claims will help him and Hattori understand each other's feelings it shot into their bodies. Sai is quite unsure about this because he knows what crack can do to a gentleman, but he says he will keep it just in case he needs it. Afterwards, Sai reactivates Korone, and she doesn't catch that anything happened as she thinks that the moron is peeping at her panties again. At that moment, Sai suddenly notices the hairpin he once gave a girl when he was younger with Kina, and he immediately chases after her, wondering if she is that girl. He accidentally collides with her, and she falls on him without clothes, embarrassing her. However, she refuses to get up from him because she doesn't want him to see her exclusive content, making Korone misinterpret this as Sai harassing again. She threatens to report him, and he turns to Kina to tell her he wasn't at fault. But she agrees to do that only if he chooses to be her friend, but with benefits, surprising him. Meanwhile, back in the girls' dorm, Eto calls Hattori to inform her about Sai, but she lies about how he had threatened to mediate for her. Hattori gets pissed at this and tells Eto she is going to settle this once and for all. After the call, Eto becomes cynical as this was her plan all along to get the future Demon King to become her errand boy. Eto then remembers when she had a great relationship with her elder brother as a young girl. However, her brother got cancelled in battle, and she had to step in as the head to bear the responsibilities of her family. Eto's brother, who has become undead with his head preserved with formalin in a jar, tells his sister that she has become an evil girl, but she tells him to shut his mouth and leave her alone. She states that Sai's powers match the ones the Dark Mages have been looking for, and since he will become the Demon King and destroy the world in the future, she has to get her hands on him no matter what. The next day, Sai and Miwa bathe together, and Miwa can't stop blazing him like a lunatic. He commends Sai's strategy so far in seducing the school's public leader and then beating her up. Sai watches defenseless as there is no way he is coming out of this mess and misunderstanding soon. Miwa soon runs out, and while Sai thinks about all Miwa said, he suddenly overhears him yelling outside over some lady, hinting that his tool is the length of Shaq O'Neal Big Toe. Sai goes to check what's happening only to find Korone by the door observing him, surprising him. She asks why humans, including Anaskull's audience, worry about the length of their sausage so much. Sai quotes a statement he heard from Johnny Sins, saying that bigger ones help you clap more high-value baddies and produce more offspring. Hearing this, Korone becomes surprised and asks Sai to flash her so she can compare it to other males, but Sai replies he will pass on that. A few moments later, Sai receives a telepathy call from Eto, who tells him she has arranged for him to meet Hattori after school, and he thanks her, thinking he will do his best to convince her at least. Following this, he meets the student council president, Riri, who is excited about his volunteering to join the disciplinary committee. Sai replies that he was told the committee is currently empty, so he decided to join. But when Riri informs him that the duty of the committee involves beating up the blockheads in school and making sure they abide by the rules, which is perfect for the Demon King, Sai realizes that he has just put himself in another mess. In the next scene, the school publishes on the billboard that he will now be in charge of the committee, and the students get skeptical about this as they say among themselves that putting the Demon King in charge might not be a wise decision. Later in the classroom, he starts to think of the needless trouble he has created for himself, and he becomes more desperate to convince Hattori, but he wonders if he has to pull Korone's tail again so he can meet her. As he later prepares to go and meet Hattori that evening, he loads the gun with the magical medicine Eto gave him. However, he has to get rid of his stalker, so he goes sit beside her on the bed and tries to sneak his hands into her cakes when she is not looking. Just then, Kina knocks on the glass. After she gets in, she asks Korone why she is lying down like that, revealing that this cultured moron almost grabbed her cheeks earlier. Sai becomes embarrassed and immediately changes the subject to the rice cooker Kina brought. Kina asks if she can leave it in his room, but he refuses. However, she tells him how much she loves rice and wants to see a world where everyone eats rice together. Hearing this, Korone brings out a bazooka, suggesting they put the rice cooker in it, but Sai tells them not to be crazy. Kina soon leaves and Korone teases Sai, asking him to get to what he wanted to do quickly, so bro, pretending to want to press her cakes, quickly takes the chance to pull her tail. He heads over to the location immediately, but just as he walks across the dungeon, an ugly idiot suddenly hits head with a club, knocking him to the ground. Then this stupid guy in Mohawk attempts to beat him, but he suddenly gets electrocuted, shocking the others. He soon notices that they captured Miwa, making him pissed, so he starts to make a mess of them with his powers without mercy, and while at it, Hattori catches him on this, confirming that he is really who they say he is. Sai tries to explain that he was just defending himself, but she doesn't believe, saying he is trying to use new position in the disciplinary committee to dominate over the students. She then starts walking toward him, preparing to fight him, and seeing that she is a blockhead who isn't ready to listen to him. He brings out Eto's gun to shoot himself in her. However, he shockingly realizes that the drugs are not there. Meanwhile, Hattori immediately detonates smoke bomb and escapes, saying she will gather those against him and confront him. Meanwhile, Eto, watching from her chamber through a crystal ball, is surprised how the event turned out and wonders how the drug disappeared. Her undead brother asks her what kind of drug it is, to which she replies that it was a drug to make them love her and swear their loyalty. However, Eto admires how brutal he was back there and starts gooning because she wants to be punished by him too. The next day, Hattori makes an announcement that a decree has been made to stop Sai, who is plotting to take over the world by first taking over the school. She incites a war against him, and all his haters immediately start to attack him. He tries to escape, but he's soon crossed and Hattori approaches him with her sword, ready to end him. Just then, Kina suddenly intervenes and mediates for Sai, saying she knows Hattori likes him, so they should try to end their fight and become friends. The other students are surprised to hear this and feel betrayed that Hattori was just involving them in some lover's fight, so they turn against her too. As Sai and Hattori prepare to fight back, Kina signals to Korone, and she blasts the fight scene with rice, making everyone happy, thus fulfilling Kina's dream. Following this, Korone analyzes the rice and detects black magic in it, which can make someone swear their loyalty to someone else. It happened that Kina had removed the drugs from the gun when she visited the previous day and used it to prepare the rice that was blasted. This surprises Sai as he wonders if Kina had known Eto's plan all along. Meanwhile, some female students under the drug's influence invade Eto's room and start touching her for a frisky moment. The next day, during the mana control class, Tori asks all the students to pair up, and when Sai turns to Miwa, he quickly opts out, saying he is not qualified to be his partner. Meanwhile, Eto watches him from afar and becomes even more determined to get her hands on him as she walks away. Just then, Hattori approaches him, saying the teacher asked her to be his partner, making him excited because he initially thought he was going to be dumped the second time. As the training begins with everyone throwing mana balls among themselves, Hattori explains all Sai needs to know and passes the ball to him, asking him to be gentle on her so he won't hurt her. He tells her he will go slowly. But when he throws the ball back, the whole field explodes, giving us another view of her chesticles. He feels terrible that this happened again, and Tori comes to tell him that Hattori only fainted from the shock but was not injured. She tells him he will need a lot of mental discipline to control that power and asks him if he will train in the mental self-discipline chamber. Hearing this, Miwa interrupts, saying that the chamber is infamous for people going there and not making it back alive, but Tori shuts him up before he can go further. She tells Sai he doesn't have to worry because it is just like Zen meditation. He returns to his room and begins to pack for the rigorous training. While he does, Korone tells him she will tag along so she can keep observing him. Meanwhile, at Eto's chamber, she wears a serious look, which prompts her brother's head to ask her what's wrong. She replies that Sai is going to the mental self-discipline chamber, so she is thinking of a way to maximize this opportunity to get what she wants. Her brother calls her evil again, but she tells him to keep quiet. Then, she remembers her mom telling how he died a few years back. Her brother had discovered something mysterious during an investigation, but he died before he could report it. So the government had to use necromancy to interrogate him, but they found out he couldn't remember anything. This caused the government to conclude that he must have been scared and unalived himself, bringing shame to Eto's family. Sai soon reaches the chamber and tells Korone goodbye as he enters since he has to go in alone. But he is shocked when he realizes some seconds later that Korone entered with him. As they talk, he sees a package hanging in the air, so he tries to grab it only to grab Kina's tiny melon, embarrassing both of them. She tells him she thought he might be hungry, so she decided to bring him some rice, but the door closed before she could leave. Meanwhile, Eto approaches the chamber with illusion magic imbued bullets, which she plans to use on Sai when he reaches astral state during his meditation, so she can deceive him into swearing his loyalty. In the chamber, Sai leans against the wall with the two girls clinging to him. His back hits a weak spot on the wall, and upon removing the bricks there, he shockingly finds a treasure map. However, he doesn't give this much thought, and he separates from the two girls to begin his meditation. Just then, Kina interrupts to tell him she is pressed and about to pee on her body. Bro gives him a waterproof bag to use, but she rejects it, so Korone informs them that Kina can pee in her mouth since she can internally convert it to energy, leaving them questioning if she is fine in the head. Kina gets even more pressed, and she begins to bang the door like they bang your mum every night. From outside, Eto wonders if he is already mentally unstable and cannot bear it anymore. She reasons that this even makes it better, so she goes to open the door, expecting to command his loyalty right away, but she is shocked when an almost clothless lady runs out like she couldn't take his rod any longer. However, she sees the treasure map and picks it up. She is shocked when she sees its content and tells Sai she will be leaving with this. She takes it back to her brother to ask him about it since it is his writing, but he tells her he can't remember anything. The next day, Eto remains disturbed about the map as she wonders if her brother was lying or not. Just then, a strange girl walks up to her to empathize with that she couldn't make the Demon King her underling, shocking her. Eto wonders who she is, suspecting that she is not a student, but the girl replies that she has the permission to enter the school before walking away. At that moment, she suddenly hears a ruckus going on, and when she goes to check, she sees the very map she took displayed on the screen. She quickly returns to her chamber, only to realize that the map is no longer where she put it. At the same time, Sai and Korone find out that the map has been pasted all around the school, and they immediately suspect that Eto did this. Meanwhile, the student council meet concerning this, and they identify the marked place on the map as the place abandoned in the previous Great War. As Eto later accuses Sai of doing this nonsense, so the students can be controlled by greed to hunt for treasures, Korone points their attention to the culprit, pasting the copies of the map around the school. It's none other than Kina. Eto asks what the heck she thinks she is doing, and she replies that she is only giving the students the necessary information so they can begin hunting for treasures. Sai meets Riri after this, because the matter has gotten worse since some idiots have headed to location and returned with stripes. Riri tells him to give an announcement for the disciplinary committee, warning against any student going to hunt for treasures or they will be punished. They call an emergency meeting immediately, and Sai steps before the school to warn any student from going to hunt for treasures. But a fool from the crowd tells him to cut the crap, as they all know that Kina, who is posting the maps everywhere, is working for him. They start booing and throwing things at him. Then the Green Lantern from earlier immediately charges at him with a move you only find in Chinese movies. She grabs his neck and tells him to announce his acceptance to go and check the location himself to prove that he didn't set it all up. As she later walks away, Eto runs to the scene to ask who she is, and she introduces himself as Teruya, leaving Eto wondering which forest in Africa she hailed from. Sai meets Riri again, and she tells him he only needs to investigate the location and return. Easy peasy, but Sai suspects that she is hiding something. Following that, Sai, Korone, Kiwat, and Teruya begin their adventure to the unknown. As they analyze the map, they find the name Yamato Boy Chiro written on it and wonder who that is. They soon enter the dungeon and find the graves of the fallen warriors from the last Great War. Sai suggests they check Yamato Boy Chiro's grave first, since it is written on the map. Just then, Korone finds some used bullets and comments that a battle must have gone down here, to which Sai replies that they didn't have respect for the dead. Hearing this trash from a Demon King feels weird to Teruya, but Sai emphatically states that he is not the Demon King, neither does he plan to be one. Teruya begins acting like a dumb idiot and spews some nonsense from her facial hole. At that moment, Sai brings out his gun and points it in her direction, shocking them as they think Bro is gonna blast her useless face, but they soon realize that there is a monster behind them. Meanwhile, Hattori sneaks like an unskilled thief into Sai's room and finds Kina deep in sleep there, but doesn't find Sai anywhere. She wakes the sleepyhead up and asks if she has any idea about Sai's whereabouts, to which Kina reveals that he went out with Korone, Miwa, and some other girl named Teruya. Hearing the name Teruya, Hattori storms out immediately because this is very bad. At the same time in the dungeon, Teruya brings out her sword and charges at the mist monster, but she gets clapped instead, so she begs Sai to avenge her even though he was not planning to make any move. He immediately gets to his feet, declaring that though he only came to investigate the labyrinth, he has now changed his mind. He shoots at the mist immediately, engulfing it instantly. Teruya is excited and jumps on him. While he struggles to get her smelly cookie off his neck, he falls to the ground only to find Yamato boy Chihiro's grave right before him. He immediately begins to search the grave and finds a toy doll recorder there. He plays it and it gives Sai the direction on how to use it. Meanwhile, Eito also sees this through her crystal orb, and while she wonders what that device is, Kina reveals herself. She then tells Eito they need to head to the scene too, which could help her find more information about the mysterious death of her brother. She finds this juicy and agrees to go immediately. But as Hattori takes the shortest route to the labyrinth, hoping to catch up with Sai and the others quickly, she falls into a pit. Sai and his team soon get to one abandoned castle, and as they traverse it, Miwa suddenly hears one of the knight statues move, but Sai dismisses it. However, one suddenly attacks but Sai manages to defeat it, so it walks away calmly. They then find a screen which tells them the next place to go, and afterward, Korone leads them to the hot spring with her weird too she got from Temu. Seeing the water, Sai gets in and starts to search around for any potential danger, but it seems they all didn't come here for the same purpose. Teruya sees this as an opportunity, so she gets into the water and jumps on Sai with her bare body, pressing her fun bags on the innocent poor boy. Meanwhile, Hattori, who had fallen into a pit earlier, had miraculously found herself here, so she notices the two idiots playing rough in the water. Not realizing that it is Sai and Teruya, she immediately launches at them with her sword because she can't have some couple oppressing her single self. However, she suddenly realizes it is Sai midair, making her embarrassed as she quickly covers her treasures. She then warns Sai to stay away from Teruya, claiming she is an Imperial agent, shocking him. Teruya and Hattori soon start a typical girls' fight, and while at this, Sai notices a beast from afar. The beast immediately charges at the two girls, but Sai quickly rescues Hattori while hitting the beast off. The beast comes running toward him again, but as it almost bites him, it collapses and falls asleep, surprising Sai, who now thinks his blood is a sedative. Teruya feels terrible that Sai chose Hattori over her, and she runs off, but before she leaves, she throws him a key, telling him to take the Demon King's legacy and just die. Just then, Eto and Kina arrives and Eto reveals that she caused the beast to sleep off. They find out that Teruya had deactivated Korone earlier, and Hattori asks Eto what brought her here anyway. Eto demands that they show her what they have discovered so far, so they bring out the doll, the screen, and the key Teruya just gave Sai. Eto recognizes two of the items, and as she turns to key to see what it is, a teleportation portal suddenly opens. She falls into it, shocking the others, and they follow after her before the portal closes, leading them to an unknown place. Just then, Riri appears along with the other members of the student council, and she congratulates them for passing the test, surprising them. Riri offers to kiss Sai as a reward.
You serious?
But Hattori isn't having it, so she yells at Riri, demanding to know what the hell all this means. However, at that moment, Eto starts running toward the giant building structure before them, which immediately alerts Riri. Sai immediately attempts to follow after her, but Riri blocks him, saying it is dangerous. She reveals that they are at the lowest level, which used to be the Demon King's base, and Sai mustn't come in contact with it. Eto soon reaches the base and inserts the key into the seal. She then scans her hand on the screen and activates the seal with the doll, which instantly summons a dragon, scaring her. The dragon asks Eto if she is qualified to control him, claiming that he might have to isekai her if she is not. Seeing this, Sai attempts to go rescue her, but Riri stops him, saying the dragon must not find out that he is the Demon King. Just then, Eto suddenly starts to see the memory of how her brother met a certain dude that deceived him into erasing his memories for his own goal, and then strangled him to death. Eto begins to cry as she realizes that her brother was never a coward as they had painted him to be. Sai wonders what just happened, and Korone suggests that some catalyst must have the dragon to replace some memories that were recorded inside it. Just then, Sai states that he has made a decision to go rescue Eto, but Riri tells him no. However, he insists, and Riri replies that this means he will have to go through her first. She lands some hits and Hattori tries to attack her, but Riri tells her this would mean she is helping Sai become a Demon King. Hattori replies that she has made up her mind, and if that time comes when Sai becomes the true Demon King, she will end him with her own hands. However, Sai shuts her up before she starts thinking that was some heroic statement, saying he won't become the Demon King, he just wants to save Eto. He forces his way out and heads for the dragon. He saves her and subdues the dragon in the process. The dragon, being impressed, He is that strong, asks him for his name, and after Sai tells him, the dragon introduces himself as Peterhausen. Bro tells him he's got a horrible name. The dragon replies that he can change it if he wants. The idiot begins to consider it, but Ato suddenly comes to drag him away, and as he leaves, Riri corners him and kisses him like she had promised. Some days later, Korone holds a meeting with a group of ugly losers in the government who decide to exploit Sai's attraction to melons and cakes. So they give her the mission to pull a Delilah on him. However, there is a condition. If she fails, she will have to be dismissed from her role. The following day at the beach, Sai sees Kina's backside and becomes embarrassed, but when she calls him out on this, he tells her she doesn't have the appeal to turn his little John Cena into The Rock because she still looks like she just got weaned. She tells him it means she still has the chance to grow bigger, but he replies that it's quite unlikely, judging by how slow her brain seems to be developing. Just then, Sai feels some soft balloons pressing on him, embarrassing him, but he pretends not to be moved, saying he's not sure those babies got some milk. The shameless Jal immediately removes her swimsuit to show him the real size, which almost fries his brain. He reasons that she has been acting loose lately as she almost grabbed his pickle some days before, begging to give him the Gok 3000. However, the next day after that, she almost rendered his baby-making factory useless because he didn't give it to her the night before. Afterwards, she continued disturbing him for plot development. But dude is a noble Sigma who wouldn't take advantage of thirsty women.
Come on, man.
He even had to escape to where Peterhausen was, but the naughty girl followed him there because she wanted his meat so badly. She asked him if he liked Kina, saying she wanted to know his true feelings. Sai wondered why she wanted to know, and she replied that she wanted to satisfy his naughty desires. Back to the present, Korone forces him to hold her melons, and when Hattori gets jealous, she puts his hand to grab hers too.
Perfect.
Making Hattori so embarrassed that she reacts with a sword strike to Sai's head. Afterward, Sai tells Korone to apologize for the mess she caused, and Korone tells Hattori she only wanted to make sure she learns the way of culture. She then adds that Hattori must be a newbie, seeing that she got freaked out easily, so she tells her she and Sai will teach her to be naughty, so she can run her first successful OnlyFans account. Just then, Sai overhears the student talking about how his sausage remained flaccid, even though he touched a woman's balloon. So they think he must be a wet noodle. He goes to explain himself, but it all falls on deaf ears. Following that, Sai invites Hattori to swim with him, which Kina also joins. Meanwhile, during their fun time, Kina finds a sea cucumber and starts to wiggle until it reaches its peak, shooting out some white cream that leaves Hattori horrified and violated. Later, while Sai and Hattori talk with Hattori almost getting rizzed up, Korone suddenly pulls down her swimsuit. Hattori is embarrassed and swims off immediately. Then, Sai angrily asks her what that was for, and she replies that she thought to set him in the mood. But he gets angrier and tells her to keep to her position as an observer and stop messing with him and those around him. She becomes sober and leaves. Later that evening, on their way back from the beach, Sai perceives that he is being watched, but he doesn't know who. Just then, he sees Miwa heading who knows where, and he asks him where the heck he is going. Miwa tells him that this is his hometown, so he wants to visit his family. He adds that there is a legend about the Demon King on this island, prompting Sai to ask what it is about. Miwa reveals that the reason they initially didn't want him to come to the seaside school is because the legend says that when the Demon King revives, a monster will arise from the center of the sea, but a hero would come to stop it. He then says it is also said that it is this same hero that would defeat the Demon King. Sai thinks this is all bullcrap, since the Demon King existed 100 years, and this must have just been made up by the hopeless people of the island seeking what to put faith in. A few hours later, he comes out of the party to investigate who might be spying on him. As he walks out, Korone meets him to tell him the same. He tells her he wants to go after the spy, and Korone instantly brings out a mana detection device. Meanwhile, the purple-haired witch meets Peterhausen to tell him how she plans to take over the world with Sai, which makes him happy because he is quite disappointed that his master is not ambitious, just like you who would spend all day watching anime recaps. At that moment, Riri appears to inform Ato that Korone has been tasked by the Matrix to seduce Sai. Surprising her, Riri then says she is going to get involved from now on and do all her best to defeat the Matrix, especially the Ministry of Magical Intelligence, SIMO 8. Ato replies that this means that she will become her enemy, and Riri replies that she will bring everyone down who are trying to use Sai as a tool. After she leaves, Ato thinks of telling Sai about this, but since she can't reach him, she sends Kina to him instead. Kina tells him that some groups skilled in isekai magicians are seeking to send him to an early grave, but Bro doesn't take this seriously because the person relaying the information is a clown. She soon falls in his arms and seeing the hairpin on her hair. Sai asks her if they have met a long time ago, but unaware of what he is talking about. She replies that she might have been destined to meet him. She sleeps off and Sai is left wondering why he seems to be so relaxed around her. Du tries taking the chance to kiss her, but she catches him and decides to make it French.
You can do it!
Just then, jealous Coronet suddenly kicks them, ruining the moment. They suddenly hear a noise and a bullet hits Coronet, shocking them. A quick diversion: a few months back, Miwa had gone for the same examination with the duck smoking pipe, and he was told that he would become the hero. However, Tori affirmed that this had to be a lie. Back to the moment, Coronet falls to the ground, and while Sai tries to help her, she suddenly asks him what he thinks of Kina. He wonders why she is asking this in this situation, and she tells him that it's important. This prompts Sai to ask if she was mad at what he did earlier, and she replies that she wasn't, but says it is unfavorable for her. He tells her sorry, but the moron further shatters her heart when he says it might never come in her favor though. Hearing this, Coronet tells him this is bad for her, and she might have to accept that she failed. She turns to him and tells him this is the last time he will be seeing her, so she bids her farewell and leaves through a portal, shocking Sai, because he is as clueless just as you are in a calculus class. Meanwhile, it is after she leaves that this idiot remembers the other part of the information Eto asked her to pass across. Eto had informed Kina that Coronet was given a mission to seduce Sai, and judging by her face, which resembles Baba Yaga, she doubted Coronet would be successful, which would lead to her dismissal as an observer. Hearing this, Sai remembers Coronet saying she had accepted her failure. On the other side of the island, Miwa meets his sister, but as they discuss, she overhears some villagers who came to visit his parents mocking him and saying they doubt he would make a successful hero. Hearing this, he becomes sad and leaves immediately before he bites his tongue to glory. The next morning, Miwa's sister, Yukiko, visits the dorm to ask Sai if he is the Demon King, but he denies it, saying people only call him that. She then asks him if her brother is the hero, but Sai ignorantly replies that he is not sure Miwa wants to become that either. The girl gets teary and runs off in disappointment, with her teary brother also running after her. Seeing this, Kina follows them immediately, while Hattori blames Sai for being an obnoxious fool by denying the little girl what she wanted to hear. While Miwa looks for his sister, Kina meets him by the lake, and he begins telling her the legend about the lake. They suddenly hear a noise, and he explains a phenomenon you can't find in any geography textbook. He also tells Kina that the mark of the hero lies beneath the lake, and further explains that the mark of the hero is just a small sword stuck in a boulder in the lake, which can only be removed by the hero. Miwa adds that his grandpa set all of this up, so it must be pretty useless considering that the supposed hero is just a big zero. Just then, they hear another noise which Kina recognizes as the sound of a man about to release, and they immediately head over to check what's there. They indeed find a thirsty maniac behaving like he hasn't gotten laid in 15 years. Rose summons a monster sea cucumber than the one Kina rubbed to climax earlier, shocking her. Just then, they spot Yukiko close to the ugly, depraved orangutan, and as soon as he spots her too, he begins doing the naughty things to her. Seeing this, Miwa immediately casts magic to save her, but it is instantly absorbed. The villain tells him that the monster is a mana-draining beast, so his magic can't work here. Meanwhile, Kina sneaks up behind him with her invisible skill, but he captures her and frees Yukiko. As Yukiko runs off, she tells the orangutan that her brother, the hero, will defeat him. Hearing this, he decides to show her that the supposed hero is as useless as a goalkeeper in the NBA. Later that evening, Sai and Hattori meet the orangutan, who calls himself Mr. X, and seeing him, Sai immediately realizes that he has been the one spying on him. They manage to save Kina and Yukiko from him, and as Sai heads over to go fight him, Kina tells him he must not isekai him. Meanwhile, as he prepares to fight him, Mr. X suddenly flashes him. He soon starts to beat Sai like a thief and reveals that Sai doesn't stand a chance against him because he is making him unable to use magic with his noise. He continues to whip his backside so badly that even Tanjiro would feel for him. At the same time, Miwa is sinking deep into the ocean, and suddenly, he decides to do something about his pathetic situation. He swims to the bottom of the ocean, where the mark of the hero is, and successfully pulls out the sword using some motivational mumbo-jumbo he heard on YouTube. He suddenly turns into a low-budget Power Ranger called Brave. Meanwhile, as Sai continues to get the beating of his life, he suddenly realizes the principle behind Mr. X's noise. He reveals that the noise Mr. X is bragging about is the shouting of his soul, so it means if his own shout can be louder, he will be able to defeat him. Sai immediately executes this and beats the ugly head in an instant, so Mr. X resorts to using underhand tricks, attempting to isekai the girls, but Coronet suddenly blocks the attack, surprising Sai that she is back. She tells him she managed to negotiate a plea bargain and then charges at Mr. X to neutralize him because he is one of the Simo 8. After knocking him out, Coronet says there is a bigger problem to handle, the monster sea cucumber, which is busy squirting on the whole city. As they run toward the city, they suddenly see our low-budget Power Ranger flying toward it, and before they know it, he completely obliterates the monster. Afterward, Brave comes flying toward Mr. X, intending to end him, but Sai quickly stops him, asking him why he wants to isekai him. Brave flies off after, and just a few seconds later, Miwa appears running from the other side. Surprised, Sai asks him how he survived, and he replies that he was rescued by Brave. In the following scene, Coronet briefs Sai about the developments in the ministry. He asks her if the seduction thing is still on, and she replies yes. Sai then tells her there is no way she will succeed since he is now aware of it, and she says she only did all of those to awaken his naughty side since he was too dull with women. Her original plan was to have him marry a decent girl. She then suggests he marries Hattori, shocking her, and she runs off feeling embarrassed. On the other side of the academy, Turia goes to hug whoever that is, asking him why Sai didn't die in the labyrinth. And the dude replies that Sai was supposed to release the seal at the ruins and die, but the future has changed since someone else released the seal. He adds that Sai rewrote the mana's future through his rapid growth, but Turia's brain is too slow to understand his parable. She suggests they torment Hattori next, but the guy replies that the issue with Hattori's family is not his freaking business. Turia leaves immediately, and the guy brings out a pendant that displays the Twitterbird hairpin. About 10 years ago, Sai gave a girl an expensive hairpin he bought with his food money just to please her, and as he left the orphanage, he told her that if she didn't throw the hairpin away, he wouldn't forget her, and they might meet again. Back to the present, Kina wakes Sai up to ask him about his birthday, and he tells her it's supposedly the same day as Christmas. Kina wonders why he isn't sure, and he replies that he doesn't know the exact day, but he was left in front of the church on Christmas Day. She also tells him that she doesn't know her birthday, so she chose a date for herself. Just then, Sai sees her hairpin again and asks her if they have met before, explaining that he gave this to a girl 10 years ago. He asks her how she got it, but she doesn't remember. Seeing that he is so concerned about this, she concludes that he is only looking for every means to prove they are connected by fate. On Eto's side, while contemplating her next moves, she daydreams about Sai licking up her peaches. However, in reality, she finds herself getting sampled by a monster snail. Frustrated, she channels her magic to subdue the beast. Just when she believes it's defeated, the creature attempts a comeback, forcing her to unleash another powerful spell, tearing it apart completely. Then she suddenly finds an egg within the remains of the monster. At that moment, Peter Hazen arrives and questions what she's up to. Quickly hiding the egg, Eto claims she's been eliminating magical creatures to ensure Sai's safety. It turns out that the number of magical beasts has been increasing ever since Sai awakened as the Demon King. Meanwhile, Sai and Miwa watch Power Rangers on TV, with Miwa enthusiastically glazing the new hero, cause if he doesn't, no one else will. On the other hand, Kina mindlessly devours bowl after bowl of rice like a glutton from your hometown. After she leaves, he asks about her and Miwa explains that Kina lacks strong magical abilities, which causes others to look down on her. In their society, magic users are considered the elite, making her an outcast. Coronet steps in to elaborate on the nature of mana and some anime jargons you shouldn't bother about. Determined to change the world, Sai makes it his mission to help Kina prove her worth. When he later approaches her, inviting her to class, she unexpectedly removes her clothes and flies off with her invisible magic, leaving Sai stunned as he chases after her like a mindless fool. Upon returning, Coronet points out that Sai's association with Kina has also damaged her own reputation, as being the Demon King's ally comes with its own stigma. Later in the cafeteria, Sai informs Kina that he plans to sever ties with her. However, she completely misinterprets his words, convinced he is trying to protect her. She immediately gives him the ride of his life before taking off again. Hattori watches, feeling jealous as usual, but when Sai catches her staring, she quickly responds with an awkward wave. Following this, they meet at the rooftop, and Sai expresses his concern about Kina's nonchalance toward her academy, asking if she can help, but she gets annoyed and leaves, saying she can't help him. However, she soon regrets her response. Meanwhile, in Eto's room, she's been carefully tending to an egg, hoping it will hatch into a magic beast for Sai. Exhausted, she dozes off, giving Kina the perfect opportunity to snatch the egg for her own ridiculous plan. Instead of respecting its purpose, she brings it to her friends the next day, and they suggest they make some omelette, since it is big enough to go around. When Sai touches the egg, it suddenly grows larger and cracks open, revealing a bizarre two-headed monster chicken. Almost immediately, it goes on a rampage, attacking everything in sight. Sai attempts to stop it, but his efforts barely make a dent. As he rushes to protect Kina, he realizes that the entire mess started because of her reckless stunt. Just then, Eto arrives, revealing that she's the one who nurtured the creature and can bring it under control. However, before she can act, the two-headed beast seizes her and starts ripping apart her clothes. Sai quickly steps in, rescuing her before the situation worsens. Unfortunately, the creature escapes, charging toward the city and destroying all in its path. But the chaos doesn't last long as Brave suddenly makes his grand entrance. Miwa suits up and jumps into action, clashing fiercely with the beast. The battle is intense, but Brave steadily gains the upper hand. Amid the fight, he spots a civilian trapped below. He quickly rushes to reassure them, only to find that it's a girl who, in a surprising turn, kisses him as a token of gratitude and asks him to keep it a secret. The following day, Sai recounts the recent events, but Riri reassures him that everything is fine and there's no need to dwell on it. As Sai steps out of the room, he crosses paths with Kina once more. She informs him that she plans to attend class more regularly from now on, surprising him. However, after she leaves, Bro realizes that vacation begins the next day, so Kina's decision is useless. Meanwhile, back in class, Hattori asks Coronet about the marriage thingy she suggested the other day to know if she was joking or something, and Coronet replies that she wasn't joking. She casually mentions that she is aware of Hattori's family background and has already sent an official invitation to her father, and he has accepted the request for a formal marriage proposal meeting, shocking her. Several years back, a wealthy man visited Sai's orphanage to make some donations, and while the children thanked him, he told them to thank God, instead, as he only did what is expected of him as a believer. Sai became defiant and said he was not thanking some mythical god that didn't exist. The man became angry and told him to apologize, but Sai remained stubborn despite the nuns trying to caution him. In the heat of this, a nun told him that sometimes he had to bow his head even if he was right, but Sai replied that he would make sure this never happened to him again, as long as he lived. Back to the present, Hattori starts to fuss about how he will break it to Sai that her father wants to meet concerning the marriage proposal. Coronet catches her on this and says she is aware she is finding it difficult to process this because she already thinks of herself and Sai in bed. However, Hattori denies it, saying the marriage is just a political arrangement anyway, but Coronet tells her to stop the cap because if it was just that, it would have been easy for her. Hattori says she will go tell him then, but when they reach his place, she gets very shy. However, she manages to tell him to come along with her to see her father for some political blah blah blah, but she doesn't expressly tell him that they are about to rope him in a marriage with no prenups. Following that, while Sai walks across the school premises, he overhears the blonde guy and the principal talking about the recent occurrence of monsters. The blonde dude mentions that there has been a recent increase in their activity since the Demon King awakened while looking at Sai as he walks away. Sai gets the hint that he is referring to him as the cause, so he confronts him, but the dude asks him if he hasn't noticed his responsibility yet. Afterward, they head to Hattori's hometown, and just as they get there, a girl suddenly attacks them, but Hattori quickly prevents it. It turns out it is Hattori's sister, Yuko, and she is just testing their reflexive skills. Seeing her, Miwa instantly remembers it was the Mary Jane wannabe who kissed him on their way to see Hattori's father. Yuko tells Miwa that Sai smells of a magic beast. She reveals that she is sensitive to such because she got bitten by a magic beast when she was a child, and some of the beast's mana flew into her body. Upon meeting Hattori's father, he asks Sai some marriage-related questions, but Bro doesn't catch any clue and just gives his word ignorantly to protect Hattori as long as he lives, making the father excited so much so that he calls a feast. As everyone feasts, Bro wonders why they are excited over this, and later that night as he prepares to sleep, Hattori visits him, ready to go all the way with him after much prior contemplation. However, she stops her before she can bring out her milkers and asks if she is doing this because of her family. She then mentions the ongoing marriage talks, apologizing for not telling him earlier. However, the brain-dead idiot thinks she refused to tell him because she doesn't want to marry him. It was at that moment that she knew she was with the dumbest guy in the whole of human civilization, after you, of course. Bruh. She leaves in tears, telling Sai to forget all that happened that night, making Sai wonder what he did wrong. Just then, some assassins in the village suddenly appear out of nowhere, intending to Unalove because he made their princess cry. He runs for his life immediately and they pursue him, but he is saved when his pursuers suddenly enter a trap. He is surprised and he soon realizes that Turia saved him. She tells him to come along with her to have the pleasure of his life, but Sai replies that he doesn't do short girls, annoying her. She threatens to send him to Nirvana Instead, but bro wouldn't unzip his pants, even at night point, unlike you, who doesn't even need to be threatened. Teruya then says he wants to see how he would stop Kina from getting isekai'd, shocking him. Meanwhile, Kina is waiting for Sai as she celebrates her birthday. However, she is being watched by some creepy dudes on the mission to isekai her. Teruya reveals that the assassins were sent by her father, the Archbishop. She further says that her family is responsible for eliminating whoever the Suhara deems dangerous, and for some reason, their target this time is Kina. Sai gets angry and instantly releases a surge of power that scares the hell out of Teruya. She runs off immediately, and Koro Nesun appears, saying she couldn't get any inquiries. Sai tells her to transport her to the academy, but she refuses, saying she works for the matched, and their decision is absolute. Sai, however, insists on going, and she tells him then she will have to stop him at all costs, as she brings out her gun. But then, she drops her gun and moves closer to Sai, so he can pull her tail, deactivating her. Meanwhile, Yuko, who is also in the vicinity, suddenly starts to react to the magic beast mana inside her body. Sai doesn't give a crap about this anyway, and walks to a nearby tree to open a portal that transports him to the academy. In the academy, the creeps are on the verge of isekai'ing Kina, but just then, the blonde dude suddenly appears and starts slashing until he ends all of them, saving Kina. He is Yamato boy Chiro. Afterward, he tells Kina he has always been waiting for her, claiming that he gave her the hairpin. Sai arrives at that moment and is surprised that Yamato saved Kina. However, Yamato replies that Kina is an identity after all, which he plans to merge with to attain the huge bod needed to conquer the gods. This prompts Sai to ask him why the Suhara gave an order to isekai her then, and Yamato replies that he has been denied by the gods. Realizing that Yamato only saved Kina because of his selfish desire to use her, Sai unleashes his power, claiming that he will protect her. Yamato cuts Sai's arm, but it regenerates instantly, and when he attempts to slash him again, a toe suddenly appears with magical beasts, stating that he has found a method to make magic beasts obey her so Sai can use them. Sai immediately agrees to use them, and Yamato asks him if he really wants to use these cursed powers. Sai responds that he is going to end this story where God orders the deaths of men. Hearing this, Yamato tells him that is why he is the Demon King, as he is the one who will destroy the world. As the two dudes prepare to clash, magic beasts rampage through the academy, reducing the whole place to rubble. Seeing this, Yamato draws his sword, ready to take on Sai. Eto, confused, points out that mana-based attacks shouldn't even be possible in this shielded domain, but Sai, he just shrugs and says the attack has nothing to do with mana. Meanwhile, Hiroshi is speeding toward the battlefield in his brave suit, wondering if Sai has truly gone rogue. Over to Teruya, she's watching all this go down, getting excited for some action. Her father suddenly appears, covered in blood and barely clinging to life. With his last breath, he tells her that Yamato Puchuru was the one who did this to him, and that she must carry on their family's legacy. Teruya nods, then straight up finishes him off herself. On Hattori's side, her family is watching everything unfold on live TV, and her father decides it's time to step in. Even though their clan doesn't exactly get along with Teruya's, he insists that they have to work together against the greater evil. Just then, Hattori's grandmother appears and hands her the family sword, one that hasn't been unsheathed for ages. Apparently, it only opens when it feels like it, so it's basically a sword with commitment issues. Back on the battlefield, Sai and Yamato finally throw down. Yamato's sword proves too strong, and Sai's mana regeneration can't keep up. Just as Yamato is about to land the finishing blow, Eto swoops in, snatches Sai, and escapes by sprinting on top of a magic beast. Meanwhile, Teruya and Hattori's ninja course start gathering and planning their next move. Teruya, now in charge, decides to send Hattori and her sister on a suicide mission to retrieve the family blade. Hattori hesitates, but Teruya doesn't care. She just wants the sword for her own weird reasons. As they prepare for what seems like certain doom, Brave arrives and finds Yuko struggling. He notices strange markings around her neck, signs of a man of the magic beast, and instead of addressing the bigger picture, the moron gets mad at Sai for leaving a girl like this. Cutting back to Sai, Eto rushes him toward Peterhausen for help. They reach the principal at the entrance of the dragon's den, and he steps up to stall Yamato, while Sai and Eto continue inside. Along the way, they run into Riri, who starts her usual non-stop chatter, but they push past and finally arrive at their destination. Sai and Peterhausen reunite, and the dragon tells him it's time to unleash his full potential. Sai declares that he will isekai God, making Eto swoon at his sheer audacity. Hopping onto Peterhausen, Sai takes to the skies, heading straight for Yamato. Yamato, however, is ready. Just as he prepares to strike, The principal intercepts him. Meanwhile, Hattori tries a sneak attack, but her legendary sword still refuses to unsheath. Annoyed but undeterred, she climbs onto Peterhausen, only for Sai to scoop her up princess style and whisper the hill clapper Kate Buns right after all this is over. Then, without warning, he just yeets her off the dragon. As if things weren't chaotic enough, Brave suddenly shows up and damages Peterhausen. Impressed but unfazed, Sai engages him in an aerial battle, ranting about how he's going to destroy the very philosophy of God. Brave, as always, doesn't get it and just keeps swinging because he wants to be the protagonist of the story. Meanwhile, Hattori and Yuko are mowing down magic beasts while Teruya, from her command center, follows the advice of a shady man in glasses. This dude, clearly scheming, sends an assassin after Hattori and Yuko to ensure Teruya stays in power. Back in the sky, Sai is about to finish off Brave when surprise. Brave whips out a brand new suit that's resistant to mana attacks and even drains the mana of others. At that moment, a massive airship is now barreling straight towards Sai, sent by the government to erase everything in its path. With Peterhausen at full power, Sai takes on the airship in a relentless battle. On the ground, the principal finally reveals his big secret. He was one of the warriors who defeated the last Demon King alongside Yamato. And now, he knows Yamato's true ambition, to become the next Demon King himself. As the two clash below, the battle in the sky reaches its climax. Sai manages to take down the airship, but at a cost, his reputation, already in shambles, sinks even further. Brave, worried about Sai's fate, watches as Kena suddenly starts rambling about war and genocide. Ato tries to snap her out of it, but Kena insists that maybe blowing everything up is the only way to bring peace. Years in the future, it turns out that Yamato is actually a time traveler. Bro was madly in love with a grown-up, blonde version of Kena, but things went south when she became a singularity for the Demon King's cream. Determined to claim her, he started chasing her through time like a stalker with a PhD in obsession. He vents to the principal, saying he's suffered endlessly, but this time, he's not taking an L. The principal, already on his last legs, is too weak to take him on. Just as Yamato is about to finish him off, Brave crashes the scene, acting like he's the main character. He tries to square up, only to freeze because, plot twist, Yamato is the very dude who made his suit. Instead of throwing hands, Brave switches to talk no jutsu mode and somehow convinces Yamato to take him inside Peterhausen's old cave for some unknown reason. Meanwhile, Hattori is still out here battling magic beasts, while Yuko is barely hanging onto like support. Elsewhere, Riri is throwing hands against Teruya's entire bloodline as they hunt for Sai's remains. To stir the pot, she boldly accuses Teruya of offing her own father, setting off chaos in her ranks. After soloing some fodder enemies, Teruya herself enters the chat, brushing it off as fake news. She gathers her squad and surrounds Riri, trying to end her right then and there. On Ito's end, she's playing bodyguard for Kena and the magic beast control device, but she's starting to suspect a traitor in their midst. Turns out, it's that stretchy rubber dude from before, the same one who tried to unalive Hattori. Ito throws everything at him, but dude tanks all of it like he's built differently. Just when things look grim for both Riri and Ito, the student council finally clocks in and saves them. The vice president body blocks Rubberman's attacks, while the rest mop up fodder enemies around Riri, leveling the playing field. Then, Yamato pulls up to Ito's side. She sees him as the dimwit who murked her brother, but all he sees is Kena. He tries to justify himself, but Kena suddenly switches personalities, talking in a mature, otherworldly voice. She calls out Yamato's selfishness, saying that's why he'll never succeed. Yamato rejects her wisdom and instead kidnaps her. Ito tries to stop him, fueled by both revenge and duty, but Yamato hits her with brutal truth, saying that she'll never make a difference with both a big heart and those big assets. He then dips with Kena in town. Meanwhile, Rubberman breaks free of the vice president's trap and goes on a rampage again, forcing Ito to flee toward the lab in a last-ditch effort. Back to Riri's side, Teruya escalates things by summoning Hattori, forcing her to fight against Riri. Hattori refuses at first, but when Teruya threatens to use Yuko as leverage, she has no choice but to obey. Praying that Sai is somehow still alive, she steps up to fight. But before anything goes down, Teruya's own advisor, the same puppeteer creep who downed Sai's airship, betrays her and starts wiping out her men. Turns out he's part of Sang 08 and believes Teruya was the one who iced her father. With the chaos giving them an opening, the student council escapes while Riri defeats Hattori. She tells her that if she can save her sister, great, if not, no hard feelings, because Hattori was pretty much useless anyway. Teruya, seeing her plans crumble, decides to finish Yuko off herself. But just before she can, Brave pulls up, saving his side chick and yeeting her out of there alongside Yamato. Meanwhile, at the lab, Eto and the vice president set a trap. While VP keeps Rubberman busy, Eto brings out the big guns, liquid nitrogen. She successfully freezes and shatters the dude, but his lower half manages to escape. With their mission done, they headed back to the battlefield to assist the others. With Hattori out of the way, Riri finally gets her rematch with Teruya. They throw hands, but Teruya makes a sneaky escape. Then, Riri squares up against the puppeteer. Dude tries to call a truce, but she's not having it. They clash, and he starts pushing her back, until Eto arrives as backup. The two team up and obliterate him, but they realize the body was just another puppet. The real one survives and dips, hoping to never cross paths with Riri again. Just when everyone thinks the chaos is over, Sai literally rises from the wreckage of the airship, flexing both his insane power and his shredded abs. The entire battlefield stops to witness his comeback from the dead. Regrouping with his allies, he confirms that Kina is gone. Without missing a beat, he mounts Peterhausen and heads off to end this once and for all. Meanwhile, Teruya gives Hattori one last order, to unalive Sai, but Hattori finally decides she's had enough. She tells Teruya to shut the hell up and officially turns her back on her family. Everyone freaks out, saying she has no choice because disobeying will destroy their lineage. But Hattori embraces the path of love over family duty. She unsheaths the legendary Suhora blade, a weapon passed down through her clan for generations, making it clear that she's doing things her way now. With a single slash, she wipes out all of Teruya's lackeys and completely dominates Teruya herself. Just as she's about to land the finishing blow, Korona interrupts, saying they need Teruya alive so she can atone for her sins. Meanwhile, Hattori watches Sai disappear into the horizon, remembering his promise to clap her buns red and silently wishing him luck. As for Sai, he starts grilling Peterhausen about everything. The dragon reveals that every 100 years, God alters the mana of certain humans, turning them into demon kings. Every time one dies, a century passes before another one appears. Sai listens carefully, steeling his resolve to break this cursed system once and for all. But before he can make a move, Brave re-enters the scene, flying straight at him for one final showdown. Brave and Sai stand face to face, the tension crackling between them. Brave demands to know why Sai is trying to eliminate God. Sai calmly states that he wants to change the entire system. But Brave argues that some things must be protected, pointing to the woman he saved by becoming a hero. Sai, unbothered, tells him that he can ensure her safety if given the chance, but Brave is hurt enough. Without warning, he launches an attack, determined to silence Sai's ambitions with his own hands. As their battle begins, Peterhausen feels an overwhelming fear due to Brave's mana negation ability. Desperate, he asks Sai how to counter it. Sai simply responds that he will take it head-on, and so he charges forward, allowing Brave's devastating strike to land. The attack obliterates half of Sai's body, and as the energy rips through him, Brave feels a pang of guilt. As they both fall toward the ground, Brave struggles to save them, but his suit lacks the power to pull them both. It enters emergency survival mode. Just then, Sai's body rapidly heals, and he catches them both, landing safely. Looking at Brave, he reassures him that everything will be fine. As he reaches for Brave's mask, he shatters it, revealing Miwa beneath. Watching from a distance, Yuko rushes to them and sees Miwa's exposed face. He apologizes for deceiving her, but she forgives him, embracing him tightly. Sai, however, has no time to linger. He resumes his mission, but before he leaves, Miwa pleads with him to heal Yuko's reaction to magic beasts. Sai dismisses the request and states that once he isekais God, everything will change. He then unveils that he plans to make Peterhausen take God's place and reshape the system. Miwa points out the irony, that Sai's actions will make him appear as though he's trying to take over the world, but Sai doesn't give a crap about what people think. Meanwhile, Yamato carries Kina through a facility housing God's control center, eliminating everyone in his path. He tells Kina about his plan to replace God and remake the system. However, Kina, her body hosting another entity, warns him that his efforts are futile. She insists that she is the identity, and that merging with the Demon King is her destiny. Yamato refuses to accept this, despite failing time and again. Ignoring her words, he takes her hand and confesses his love. Just then, Sai makes a dramatic entrance, declaring that he will save Kina, destroy God, and destroy the current system. Yamato, unwilling to back down, draws his blade and attacks Sai. He slices him in half, only to realize it was an illusion. Sai appears from behind and delivers a devastating blow, sending him flying. He then clarifies their differences. While their goals seem similar, he intends to eliminate God, not control it. Just then, a soldier recognizes Sai as the Demon King and reveals a horrifying truth. The Demon Kings exist to merge with identity, and then wipe out humanity. Every century, God uses them as a cleansing mechanism. Sai acknowledges this but refuses to merge with Kina. He vows to break the cycle. The girls in the facility claim that everything has been part of God's plan. If Sai destroys God from the outside, it will only bring chaos. But Sai is unmoved. He will end this vicious cycle, proving that God is nothing more than a system. Suddenly, the facility ascends into the sky, activating its final defenses. Sai summons Peterhausen for one last mission. He is determined to see this through, even if it means his own death. Kina, unwilling to let him die, follows him. Inside, Peterhausen blasts a hole in the Tree of Life, allowing them to enter a pseudo-realm. He warns Sai that this place is beyond human comprehension. A wave of archers suddenly attacks them, but Peterhausen presses forward, unaffected. Reaching the core, he extends wires from his body to absorb God. However, if even one wire is severed, the process will fail. As the archers renew their assault, Sai fights them off to protect Peterhausen, but he struggles. Seeing this, Peterhausen makes a drastic decision. He releases all of Sai's untapped mana to make him stronger. The power surge grants Sai immense strength, wiping out the enemy forces. However, just as the absorption nears completion, God's final defense is activated, a multidimensional hole that threatens to consume them. Sai realizes that by releasing all of his power, he can destroy the whole, God, and the pseudo-realm. But he hesitates, second-guessing himself. Then, resolving to see it through, he prepares to release everything. Kina interrupts, pleading with Peterhausen to ensure Sai's survival. The dragon promises to protect him, even if it means his own demise. Leaving behind a tooth as a memento, Peterhausen painfully sacrifices himself, leading to a blinding explosion which obliterates the facility and God itself. In the aftermath, Kina enters a mysterious spiritual realm, where she meets an alternate version of herself. This other self reveals that she is the reason Kina was targeted all along. Realizing they can give Sai a normal life, the two merge their will and take action. As the dust settles, the world witnesses the destruction of God. Luckily, Sai emerges alive and reunites with his friends. Strangely, the memories of his Demon King identity have been erased from the minds of everyone, except his closest allies. It was Kina's doing, granting Sai the chance to live as an ordinary high school student. However, the peace only lasts for a short while, as this stuck-on-cheap crack once again identifies Sai as the Demon King, marking the beginning of another problem. The end. If you enjoyed this recap, clap the like button and subscribe to the channel if you're yet to for more plot-filled adventures. If you like anime recaps like this, watch this video right here.